We are marching to yeah.
Namaskar, my name is Gosami Shankar. I am an assistant professor in the Department of Dance at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. I'm an Odissi dancer. Odissi is an Eastern Indian classical dance form. I have known SpotLight since its incipient stages in the capacity of the founders, members, dance teacher. So I have associated with SpotLight as a dance educator, as a performer, and also been a part of the panel discussion. So I wish SpotLight all the very best, especially trying to understand, trying to brainstorm the future of theater in this current world we are all living in. The subject of the panel discussion this year is really pertinent. The questions that the panelists will be asked to brainstorm are: is this pandemic changing theater in the future? What will be the place of theater? We have very accomplished panelists. We have professor of the study of our program in India, Department of Theatre and Film Studies, Franklin College of Arts and Sciences, at the University of Georgia. We have Dr. Lee Connery, chairman and founder of Epic Actors Workshop, as well as the South Asian Theatre Festival in New Jersey. We have Frank Hartford, associate professor in humanities and lead instructor in theatre, State College, and ex-director of the Columbus National Gay and Lesbian Theatre Festival. We have Julie Whitney Scott, founder of Productions LLC and the Columbus Black Theatre Festival. We have Robert Berman, stage writer and actress, Columbus, Ohio. We have Purjit Sri, chairman, SpotLight Columbus Incorporated, and SATF Columbus. The moderator for the panel discussion is Joe Shara, theatre supervisor, City of Dublin, Ohio, USA, ex-associate music director. Whichever one you choose for this brilliant panel discussion. Let's welcome the panelists. I beg of you not to use any.
Yeah, we are going live now. Ready.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our panel discussion. And we have as you've heard through our introduction, a wonderful group to discuss how we think theater should be moving forward in the midst of this pandemic that we've been living in now for almost 6 months. So I think I'm just going to hit the ground running. Panel, we had the pleasure of speaking a week ago very briefly to talk about some of our own unique experiences that we've been going through in the past 6 months. So I think I'd just like to open up the floor right now. I'd like to say, I think we know as theater artists in the variety of ways that we actually are working as theater artists right now, some on the educational level, some running theater companies, some putting on annual theater festivals. There are a variety of ways that we have to be a little bit more agile and pivot in this world of COVID. And so I'd like to open the floor to hear what you have been doing, and maybe if you have any aspirational goals for what you want to do moving forward. And a hush filled the room.
Well, I can speak from an educational perspective. We have had to move not only our performances, but all of our acting classes and performance classes online. So we've had to face that challenge and meet that challenge, taking something that's normally live and putting it into more of a video or film perspective when it comes to the way that we're dealing with the coursework. Obviously, we're anxious to get back into the classroom. We're anxious to get back on stage. At the same time, we are making some discoveries when it comes to how the training is being done right now and how the productions are being handled in terms of online, that there are some elements of this that I think that we're going to want to continue doing. Even though we will eventually move back into a live format, there has definitely been some benefits to this particular experience and how we might be able to use it and incorporate some of the elements as we move forward beyond the pandemic.
Great, thank you, Frank. Thank you so much. I think what's interesting is that we've just had 2 wonderful days of submissions in a variety of formats for the 6th annual South Asian Theater Festival. I had the privilege of getting to tune into a lot of it, and I think I was actually able to digest more in this type of format than I would have had it actually been like things were operating as normal. I think that on numerous occasions I've only been able to catch maybe 1 or 2 presentations at the actual festival before a panel discussion. But in this case, I was able to, from my phone or from my tablet, tune in and see the depth and breadth of the work that came from all across the world. And that was really a treat for me. So in a lot of ways, on my end, I am actually enjoying how people are innovating, and I'm able to actually participate and watch or bear witness to all the different ways that people are approaching storytelling during this time. Julie, can you share some of your perspectives based off of the fact that you also just recently did a digital theater festival, and what are your aspirations moving forward?
Julie, you are on
Now,
mute.
why you always let me be muted, Joe?
I was just about to type it.
First off, I just want to congratulate SpotLight on your 2 days of theater presentation. Great job. You know me. I had that sucker on for 2 days watching it. I just want to congratulate you on that for taking that effort even in the midst of it. And Joe, before I talk about me, I would like to piggyback on something that Frank was just saying. I just ended a 2-week storytelling, playwriting, puppet making class. And it was interesting. I did it Zoom live because I didn't want to videotape something. I know I've worked with kids and people with problems with sitting and ADHD and stuff like that, and developmental disabilities and stuff. And so I understand how sometimes it's very hard for youth, especially, to just sit and just watch something without some kind of interaction. So, I see, there's this, you have to figure out a way to also use that, because I had to incorporate not just live interacting with them, Zoom, so that they could see each other and stuff. But I still had to put stuff in that was already filmed, for it to go smoothly and to get that interaction. So I found that, and that's what we did with the Black Theater Festival, just moving on forward from that to that. Was how do you bring theater? The aspect of theater, which is so different in a way from screenwriting, because that's what we ended up being. Some of us was, becoming directors and figuring out how as stage directors to become film directors, because you're looking at something now through a lens and through a viewpoint, a box versus, I got the whole stage and I'm free as the audience to look wherever I feel like looking. If I want to look stage left, up, down, left, right, and follow what this guy's doing over here, I can. Or, as an audience, we have more control, I think, in live theater, because we choose which angles of the stage, which characters we're going to focus on. Where when we have to incorporate that into the lens of a camera, it's difficult, to still bring that theater How do we make sure that the audience, because I think that's the most important thing with theater, live stage theater, is because your audience is there and they bring themselves, they bring their feelings and their emotions and stuff right in there, and we're feeding off of other people around us, and the actor is feeding off of us and he's shooting at us, and you know what I'm saying? So and as an actor, because I'm an actor also, writer, playwright, all that. So I'm looking at all of this, and I was blessed to have a year of working on a web series where I was behind the camera. I was acting in front of it, but I also 99% of the time was back here. So it's difficult. And so what we had to do was figure out how to do that, what plays to pick that would best represent that in a COVID environment, a social distancing environment, that kind of thing, especially in the beginning. When it was straight up, when we started, it was like no more than 10 people. Well, actually, when we started, it was like, don't even come out your house, go to the store. So we was trying to figure out how you're going to do this, So it was a challenge that I'm very blessed and glad that I decided and my team decided. Joe was one of our directors. Joe just be in there with us, helping us all out, guys, helping us as a director behind the scenes, on the scenes and whatever. Just got to give him the act once, but I digress.
Thank you, Julie. REG, tell us about your journey. Moving the festival, which has always been in person and live, to this digital experience. What has that been like for you and the SpotLight team? Maybe some anecdotes, or maybe just how you feel about everything. I mean, I know it literally just ended in an hour in the panel discussion, but what are your thoughts and feelings about what just took place, and how are you feeling about moving forward?
Thank you, Joe, first of all. And obviously, thank all the panelists for joining, and thanks the audience for bearing with us with 2 days theater festival, South Asian Theater Festival. Now, tell you one thing, when the pandemic started and when all these lockdown and everything started, it's not only theater, the whole life changed for all of us in many ways. Now, we were discussing in our board, SpotLight board, and our committee members that what should we do? We never thought of doing the virtual theater festival or digital theater festival in the beginning, of course. We were thinking like, if we do it, how do we do it? And then we were waiting for the numbers, we are waiting for the direction from the governor, we are waiting for the direction from the Ohio Arts Council, Greater Columbus Arts Council, and we are waiting for what is going to happen next. Since in the beginning, we have no direction, we don't know how long this pandemic will go on. So it was very confusing state. And then one day when I was talking with Greater Columbus Arts Council, they told, we even didn't know that we will apply for the grant or not, or if we apply, we'll get it or not. So we asked Greater Columbus Arts Council and Ohio Arts Council that what is their direction for grant process and everything. And then they told us in an interview, me and 2 other board members, we went to the interview. Obviously, that is also in Zoom. And that was also in Zoom. So they suggested, we are trying to help you, not only you, all the theater organizations, all the performing arts organizations, to pursue your passion. If not physically, try to think about something else. Use your creativity. So then we got that courage from them that, hey, and they told us, not only you, a lot of people are thinking in a different way. So try to think. You can still do festival. You can still do South Asian Theater Festival. So we got that courage. We got that encouragement from them, and that inspired us. And at that time, we started thinking about these. And obviously, we had very short time since we started thinking about this digital festival late. And then also how to do it, as Julie told, like we are actors. We love the reaction of audience. We are stage actor. We are not a movie actor. We don't like to act in front of camera. We like more to act in front of live audience to get their feedback. Whenever I act in stage, when I feel the energy, positive energy coming from the audience, that inspired me more. I was like thinking, what should we do in this situation? It can make us, it will not get the vibe, will not get that vibe from the audience. Then how will we do that? So I thought maybe since we had less time, we will put our acting hat off and put our organizer hat on and pass the inspiration from what we got to the other actors, directors, and somebody who want to do it. Now there is the actual challenge started. We are thinking what it will be. It will be audio play since people are not going out of house. Will it be an audio play? Will it be a video play only with the family member? Or will it be a movie making? Since we don't know where is the difference between movie making and the virtual play. Whenever you are not acting in front of audience, that means it is in front of camera. That means it is a thin line difference between play, theater, and movie. Now, I cannot define that. I'm confused myself that what is that difference? Will it be like just an acting and shoot it, or will there be more post-production work, like dubbing, editing? Those things never happened in theater. Those things only happens in movie. So we let other people, we inspired other people to think of different creativity, which can be not a theater or not a movie or something in the middle, but acting and direction will be involved. Again, in our passion, acting and direction matters, whether it is audience play or camera acting or acting in front of audience. And then we surprised to see so many different kind of play started coming for our festival. Since it was planned in very short time, we again, I told before that a lot of things we can have improved. We have a lot of room for improvement since we did this first time, and it is a lesson learned for us, and we can do improvement in future from this lesson learned. For example, subtitles. We have a lot of audiences who did not understand the language of different plays. So we can do that. But again, I'm coming back to your question, Joe. So I can see in the future, there can be a lot of creativity. Like obviously in our passion, the people who are involved, they're creative in different ways. It is a mixture of creative art and performing arts. So people are thinking in a different line. Pandemic helped them to think in a different way. They are brainstorming, they are finding out different solutions. And the result is this amazing festival where we saw different kind of like audio play with slideshow, audio play with movie scenes, then story reading in front of camera, and then acting in one space, different actors acting in different houses, and then they merged them. So a lot of creativity we can see. And in future, we are actually thinking of continuing this even after Corona, like post-Corona era. We are planning to do regular festival as well as digital festival, since this digital era teach us that we can do something different also So obviously, we are thinking in that line. Thank you, Joe.
Well, thank you. I really did enjoy the variety. But I'd like you opened up something that I'd like to open up for the floor. And I know we haven't heard from everybody, and so I'd like to give our panelists who haven't had a chance to speak yet to actually be the first ones to speak to this, because I did find myself going, "Wow, this feels more like film. This feels like a radio play." Some of it, even though it didn't happen in a theater, still felt incredibly theatrical, and that's actually something that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that because it provided a variety that I wasn't necessarily expecting. In fact, I didn't even quite know what to expect this year. But I found myself actually watching more despite a language barrier because I was just so fascinated about how artists are approaching these types of things. They're like, well, we want to be a part of this. We want to submit. These are the obstacles that we have in front of us. We can still create immediate, authentic art. And that's what I really liked about this entire festival. So kudos to Spotlight. Kudos to all of the artists who participated. I really, truly enjoyed that. So I find that this is a perfect time to ask, I believe, the godfather of South Asian theater in the United States, Dr. Roy. What are your thoughts and feelings about that? I mean, I know that this was based traditionally in live performance, but I would love to hear your thoughts and feelings about what took place at the festival, and what do you think about this type of amalgamation of all the various storytelling arts moving forward?
Before Dipanda start, Dr. Dipan Ray, of course, the founder of South Asian Theatre Festival in North America, and like we followed his path. I just want to add one more thing that when I told we got the encouragement from Greater Columbus Arts Council, it was not only the encouragement from them, it was an encouragement from Dr. Dipan Ray and Epic Actor Workshop New Jersey. Dipanda, please. Mute.
I mute because there are some noises going on around me. I didn't want to disturb your discussion. So actually, I started my journey as an actor, but gradually I was forced to switch my position as an organizer. And that's what I'm doing since I started doing this theater festival 15 years ago. At this moment, I try to put myself as an audience more than an organizer, because theater is for audience. We are there for our audience. Without audience, we don't exist, right? So we have to see what our audience like, and more what we like as an actor or organizer. So from the beginning of the pandemic, I was looking at all different activities, not only here globally, what other people are doing in digital theater platform, just to see how we can learn what people are doing, what I am what I'm liking as an audience, which I don't like as an audience. So if I consider myself as an audience, obviously I can feel that someone like me will probably have the similar kind of liking or disliking, right? So we started this digital platform for last 2 months. All right? We are doing, every month we are doing an episode. And we are trying different ways of presenting it, trying to get feedback from our audiences and learning from there. There are two aspects of it: technical improvement, as well as how we can best presentation. Because when you're talking about, yes, South Asian Theatre Festival, I know what Origins did, wanted to bring every members of the community together. Some of them had technical difficulties to bring best. Some of them did choose to do play reading, right? But when you're talking about theater, and instead of bringing it to the stage, you are bringing digitally, people will expect to see similar kind of things, that more acting, more interaction, more theatrical presentation than just play reading or something else, right? So that's what we tried to, our approach was that how we can technically improve ourselves to present it, anything we do more theatrically, that will be pleasant to our viewers. And they will be interested to see more and more and more. Believe me, we never had experience before. And thanks to digital platform, that we couldn't evaluate ourselves, that how much people like our theatrical activity. As soon as we opened up the YouTube channel, in 2 months, we developed 1,000 viewers. And that gives us some encouragement that, well, people like to see our performances, whatever we are doing. So what we try to do variety of different ways. Suppose we are putting some performances, and we did last month, we did our festival actually for 2 days. And we did kind of similar thing. But we told every participant, we want you to bring your presentation more theatrically. Please try not to just do digitally that one person, it become obvious that people are reading the script from different places. Okay, you can make it obvious when, like we are talking here, right, in panel discussion, for example. People can make it out that we are in different places and talking to each other. But that doesn't work quite well if it happens in theater. Because you see that now, Joe, I'm talking to you or talking to audience, no one will know that whom I'm talking to. I'm talking to the camera, not to individual person. In theater, it doesn't work that much. To the audience, they want to see eye-to-eye contact. That's not happening. So what I suggested, try to see, because I'm sure, and today some of the presentations in SpotLight Festival I saw, and I felt like they could be in the close proximity. Could be, I don't know all of them, could be their couple, could be their family members, but they are sitting in the same place and then recording it, taking advantage of this close proximity. So we could take advantage of that. Even now, since now we are allowed to do some inside activities within certain limited capacity, we can bring at least 4 or 5 people together, doing some theater activities, then shoot it out and present it in front of the audience. And that's what we are more and more looking at it, that how we can make it more presentable, more theatrical to our audience. That's what I would say.
Great, thank you. Mr. Cooperman, I would like to hear your thoughts on this. You and I have had numerous discussions outside of this panel discussion about theater and how people have been approaching it post-pandemic. And I'd like to hear your thoughts about that.
Sure. I will take nothing away from the creativity of the people involved in these virtual festivals. So I'm gonna probably cast a bit of a shadow on what we've been kind of celebrating, and that is the creativity. But my company, Stage Right Theatrics, our entire 2020 season has now moved to 2021, which makes planning for next year really easy. But the fact of the matter is that we've had to multiple times move one of our shows. And for me, the question, it was brought up to me that, what if we did a virtual presentation? And my question to myself and to folks I was working with was, okay, is this theater? And so what makes me just a little bit not so optimistic about the future is I feel that if we're going to embrace the virtual world, and if this was a short-term thing where, listen, we know this pandemic's going to work its way out, 6 months, 8 months, we're going to be good, we'll go back to live theater. Great. Okay, then I could take anything, we could try everything. But I even heard it in one of our panelists say that, afterwards, we're going to continue the virtual the virtual presentation. And this is where I'm slightly concerned, because I fear that we are losing the metaphysical essence or underpinnings of theater. A number of people have said that, you know, theater involves and requires the interaction with a living audience. And the audience members need that every bit as the actors need that. So there is this community that happens in theater. And we all know that there is a religious base to that. So my fear is, if we embrace the digital, the virtual, and that's very tempting to do as a producer, because let's face it, I don't have to pay a venue. You know, I don't have to, there's a lot of things I don't have to pay for. And I can keep my fingers crossed that technology will work, but it's going to be, and I could still make some money. I could charge people for a streaming event, as one excellent streaming event I recently saw at the Abbey Theater, for example, just to name one. But if we start embracing that, we're going to have to, at the very least, in my opinion, rethink theater's infrastructure. We're going to have to think about that relationship between the audience and that community that's built. We're going to have to, and this is to one of Frank's points, how do we train actors now for the theater? As Julie made a great point, what happens to the art of directing? Okay, well, look, let's face it, when we watch something on film or on television, even if it's, I've seen plenty of, and I'm sure you have too, plenty of filmed theater pieces on Masterpiece Theater. Somebody is making a decision for us, the audience, as to what we're going to see. And if I look away, I've lost, in my opinion, lost engagement with that, with what I'm watching. Because now I'm watching my dog do something, or I'm grabbing a snack and watching the television, you know? But what I love about theater is, as Julie said, one of the things I love about theater is that while a director, of course, stages and blocks a play and does so with a focus in mind, so that the audience's eye will watch a particular scene that's done with lighting or with sound, etc., or just staging, where the actors are positioned, I can look away and I can watch, as Julie said, I can watch somebody else in the corner. I can watch an actor in the, you know, in a non-consequential role. I could just do that, and I'm still watching the play, and I'm still getting that experience. I'm just getting a very personal experience for it. So the whole art of directing and kind of forcing people into seeing certain things in a certain way will have to be grappled with. What are the expectations of performance now in a virtual theater? How do we deal with problematic technology? To me, when we start embracing that, it's creative. I take nothing away from the creativity of it. Okay? But is it theater? And right now, from what I'm seeing, I am not convinced that that is theater. So for my company, we don't feel we're going to do that. We're going to just sweat it out. But just one final thing I want to say, because I don't want to, you know, monopolize my time. No, I do want to monopolize my time. I don't want to monopolize your time. Yep. I resemble that. Put yourself on mute. Okay. So what can we do though? Because I'm thinking now, all right, if I've got this sort of pessimistic view, what can we do? We can write about theater. I mean, I think people should write about theater as well as for theater. We should look at creating theater in small spaces. outdoor spaces, or maybe think about, and I'm playing around with this in what's laughably called in my mind, are there such things as plays for small audiences? We know there's 10-minute plays. We know there's 3-minute plays, which to me is absolute nonsense. But there's 10-minute plays, right? There's plays for short amounts of time. What about plays for smaller groups of people? I'm not saying smaller venue necessarily, but smaller groups of people. And I'm not talking about children's theater with small people. Okay, that's my point. So I think we have a lot of creativity we can use in order to, if we have to, rethink the theatrical infrastructure. And at that, I will now mute myself.
Thank you, Robert. I do appreciate your insights. I truly do, in your perspective. So let's talk about that a little bit, because and we briefly touched on this when we had the chance to touch base a week ago, but I'd like to open it up because now we've had a week to think about it. Different governors have had different takes on live entertainment venues. Only a week ago, the governor of Ohio actually said that live entertainment venues can now host events up to 15% of your capacity. So in the theater that I manage, I can have a whopping 30 people in a 200-seat venue. That being said, I am very interested in doing that and opening up my venue so people who want to have that shared live experience with a storyteller, following all the check boxes, please don't get me wrong. Everyone will have 6 feet social distancing. Everyone will wear masks. No one will be within, in my venue, at least 20 feet of the performer. So that's how I'm approaching it. I'm curious to hear on the academic side what your thoughts and feelings are about that. If you are, even if your governors have said, hey, yes, you can do this, are you going to do it? There's so many layers of this onion. Farley, could you give us a little insight on how you feel about moving forward now that it seems like some governors are feeling a little bit more flexible in actually allowing live theater artists to practice their craft live?
So many questions. To me, you all have raised a number of questions that one could delve into in great depth. And Robert in particular has raised that the biggest question of all is what we're doing now theater, or is it business? This platform that we're using was created not for theater. It was created for business people. It was created for people who could carry on conversations in their companies across long distances, and not for us as theater people to play around with. What is striking, I think, is, and you, Joe, you've raised this issue about who controls all of this. The master controllers have chosen that the arts do not get special treatment. The arts do not get special treatment. Who's gone ahead of us in broadcasting what they do to the world? Of course, the sports. The sports people are the ones who are doing it, and now in larger and larger venues, and the museums, the dance halls, the theaters, the way that we have as artists constructed our world has been at the bottom of the choice level. It's not at the top of their level. We've been thought of as afterthoughts. And I think that needs to be thought of in terms of, well, should we take it? Should we take it, or should we make a point that this has decimated many companies, has adversely affected many organizations? The reduction of attendance, of course, or even not opening museums has been, I think, devastating for a lot of museums around the country, especially the smaller ones. And also we have put, our job, Robert has said, theater is all about people being together in one room. It's all about people on stage being together with the people in the audience being together and feeling the rapport that goes on among them. And that, I think, is crucial for what we've grown up on, is that relationship. We haven't grown up with necessarily with film for us, because many of us are not involved with filmmaking. And I don't consider this filmmaking. This has nothing to do with filmmaking as far as I'm concerned. Filmmaking is selective choosing of frames centering around individuals performing work in different places and in different environments, and then putting it all together and then editing and a very large sort of panorama of activities. But not what we've done is not say that what we're getting with Zoom is a kind of mishmash of possibilities, so that these little framed boxes that we find ourselves in right now are the only way we can express ourselves to each other. And the problem is, as a director myself, and I've directed 2 pieces for Zoom and on Zoom, and the biggest problem I see is that we have, as in acting, you as Robert points out, we talk to each other. Actors talk to each other. Deepam was suggesting that too. We're involved in communication with each other on the stage, and in an environment in which the director, or not always directors, but frequently directors, constructed the look of the set itself and what we see behind us. We right now I have no control over this stuff that you're seeing back here. I'm in my computer room, and so you all are in different venues. And when we put a green screen up, then we've got all the halo stuff that goes around our bodies, and then our hands look like they disappear into space. And so it's extremely opposed to the notion of what theater is like. Theater is not like that. You see people, sometimes if you're at the back of the house, you see people that look very small. If you're at the front of the house, you see people that look big, and so you're wherever you happen to be, you choose the level at which you're willing to pay to get up close to the actors or just stay way back. And it happens in opera as well. You do the very same thing in opera. But what I think is problematic is that design-wise, and the designers are the ones that are getting hit the worst in our field, I think. Design-wise, we have very little control over these background things. And we have because how can you go into different rooms, like you all are in different parts of the country, in different rooms? How can we go in and design a set that looks like the one that's behind me, which isn't a set at all, but just a room? And how then can you communicate between the characters on stage, so that, in fact, in most theater productions, we'd be talking to each other this way. Somebody be talking this way, the other one person, we talk this way. So we're not doing that. And in fact, when you start doing it in Zoom, it becomes problematic, because where is your box in comparison with where your partner is? You don't have that kind of control. In fact, you have to kind of guess where the box is going to be. And so it's hard to design, as a director, it's hard to design movement and action when you don't know where the other characters are. And also having more than one character or 2 characters on stage in a Zoom situation becomes very problematic in general. So I would say that we are faced with several things. One is the problem of being taken seriously by people who are who make the choices in our lives, government, business, industry, all of those people who have more money than we do, who make decisions about who can get the little toys to play with and who can't. So I think that's needs to be considered very greatly in the future, because if we're going to go forward in this, then we're going to be faced with economic problems as we open. We already know we've had economic problems because we've been shut down. So our university, for example, is working on a project right now in which we're creating a piece for called Breathe, which is we have a Black playwright and a Black director who's working with us on this piece, but they're suffering the same problems that I'm just discussing right now. How do you stage this? How do you stage this work so that it's convincing in terms of what our intentions are to bring forward this notion of the current social and political issues that are facing us? How can you do it under these circumstances with what we've got in our little boxes? Okay, so I've gone on long enough, but anyway, you see where I'm coming from.
No, I appreciate your perspective. And I think that you also brought up something that's really fascinating, is that you also said it's like, playing with toys, right? And, what do you have in your arsenal technologically in order to break it up? Because so many people do think there's Zoom and there's only Zoom. And there's so many other different ways to do it. Is your venue actually, whoever decides whether or not you're actually allowed to do anything in your theater, are they going to let you in your theater? And then do you have it in your budget to reappropriate money that you maybe had set aside for sets or costumes, so you can have cameras that can actually make it so you're in the theater and you can give different angles from the audience of the theater so it still feels like theater? The economical ramifications, as you said, Big Brother, it's like, yes, you know what you want to do, but what are you allowed to do? It's very fascinating. Frank, did you want to talk about this from your perspective?
Sure. Well, and it's, I'm kind of going to dovetail off of things that Robert had said and also that Farley had said. Yeah, I get caught into the same sort of issue of, is it theater, and how I feel about that personally, even to the extent that I'm not directing the plays right now at Columbus State because I said, until I can get back on stage, so there's other people who are doing the plays there. But that being said, theater is changing in terms of what we think of when it comes to live theater and what's being incorporated. And in some ways, I feel like the pandemic has kind of like kicked some things into gear. I mean, keeping in mind that our younger students, our younger actors, they've grown up with this technology. Yeah, Zoom in itself may not be the best platform to do theater in, but the bottom line is that the younger people, when they were faced with this, they have figured out creative ways to do it. And I look at things like the production of West Side Story that was running on Broadway before everything shut down, that had live actors on stage and video projections behind them with cameras actually live recording the actors and projecting it behind them, even having scenes that were happening off location that the actors had to run to get to that little set, and then the camera would record them and it would be projected into the auditorium. So they were already incorporating technology like this into live productions. I have a friend, a colleague who is a professor at a university in Florida, that they started an actual theatrical degree that is focused solely on video projection, because they really see that as being the future of theater. Farley was talking about sets. Well, now they can project the sets behind you, even live on stage. It's like, so there's so much that's happening with this technology and live theater. Yes, as Joe said, there's a lot of budget issues when it comes to it. But I think in some ways, for us as theatrical practitioners, this, and I can only speak for myself, but it has forced me to think about how I can use this technology and incorporate this technology into live theater. I'm still looking, as Robert says, I'm still looking for the day that I can get back into the theater on stage live. It's what I want. But I'm not necessarily looking at that as being an opportunity for me to completely abandon what we're learning with all of this. I think that there might be some potential marriage with some of it down the road. whether we want to or not, because I do think that the younger people who are moving into theater, who are very technology savvy, they're already working on incorporating these sorts of things into their live productions. We're seeing it happen on Broadway already. So, so for me, this was a chance to start playing with some of these things and learning how to use some of them to create theater of some form.
Right. And I think that you bring up.
Joe, can I say something?
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead. Cut me off.
Who was speaking? I can't tell. Was
That
that you, Joe? I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's fine. Go ahead. I'm just the moderator. Go.
I think that the future of theater is all of this. As Frank says, I know personally, this was our 8th year doing Black Theater Festival, and every year there have been theater companies that have presented stuff where they use multimedia in their plays. And I remember in the very beginning when we were first getting plays from the younger generation, the 30s, you know, the ones in their 30s and 20s. Hey guys, we're getting up there. We ain't gonna be around here forever. Digressed again. But I was getting plays, lots of them, and even, you know, that had already incorporated some type of multimedia background, something in there, along with the live stage. And they call them right now, you can look it up, multimedia theater, you know, where there's that thing. I think that what we have to do is to just remember that, I think, and you just said it, Frank, that we have to be willing to move and try to figure out what is going on, because things will never always stay the same, especially with technology. You know, I had a daughter that was born in 1990. But they were talking in 1990 that computers would be in every school by 1995, and they were. Okay. And so she started off her generation, which is 26 now, 27, something, I don't know. But, oh no, she's 30. Okay, that's 30 now. So those 30-year-olds and stuff, they started school with technology. So it's one of those things. I think it's important for us as theater people, though, to remember and figure out what our calling is and what it is that we want to present, what we want to do. You know, like Robert says, you know, Stage Right says we're not doing anything until we can get back on that stage. Well, let's pray that, you know, 2021, you can get back on the stage. But at the same time, we want to be able, we have audiences out there that need and want some semblance of normalcy that they can possibly get. And even if they can't get to, and that's why I think it's so successful. And I was glad to hear what you were saying about how you're starting to put stuff on the website, because I've been doing that on and off for years, but not really putting as much to it. You know, all the plays that we present, we were always filming them anyway, straight on or two shot. And, you know, and you can go and see the play and, you know, it's straight on, don't have all that, you know, what we've been doing now. Okay, but you could do that. You can film straight on like that when you can use a stage. But when you can't use a stage, what are you going to do? You know, so I say for us as theater people, what our future is what our companies want to do, what are our missions and our goals, and what we're presenting. How are we taking care of our audiences out there? Are we helping to give them something that will, for the artists in us? Because see, I write, direct, produce, all that, but I really enjoy sitting back looking at other plays. And I really enjoy sitting back looking at other artists and seeing how they're being, what they're doing and what, because I can hear the words still. I can still use my imagination, because even in the theater as an audience member, I still got to use my imagination if it's a bare set and it's just focusing on the actor. And that's all it is right there. Is that actor right there, and all he's got is a desk or whatever, and he's telling a story. And I'm focused on that. I have to use my imagination on what he's saying with the words. So I see our future in being what it is we can do, what we will do, and what we are able to do, as you said, as our society allows us to bring more. Theater to me, stage will always be the most number one thing in my heart. I want to be in that theater. I want to see them people. I want to feel that energy coming from that actor. I want to feel that. I want to feel us walking out together and going, wow, that was really good, or that sucked, whatever it might be. I want to feel that energy. But in the meantime, I'm not going to let the people down that continue to need to see stories about my people and other people, and still need to be able to say, I need some art. I need something. I'm not going to let them down until that day when I can walk back into that stage and say, move stage right, up, left, go, action.
Very triumphant, as always, and knows how to end with a bang. Julie Whitney Scott, ladies and gentlemen. Arijit, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add a few things to Frank's point and Julie's point, as well as I want to tell Robert that he is 100% right. Theater should be theater. Again, the common thing between all of us is theater. So that's why we are here doing this discussion. So theater, once upon a time, theater was the main form of performance arts. Maybe if we go back to the Greek civilization or Roman civilization, we know the theater was one of the best, one of the main medium of performance arts. But history evolves, and technology comes in. So movies were not there at that time. And maybe in last century, movies came in. Another medium of acting started. And then with the advancement of technologies, theater also evolved, as Frank said. I have also seen theater, a solo acting, where a person is talking to his alter ego. And that alter ego is in the television, in the back. And it was pre-recorded. And the other person is acting on the stage. He is talking with his alter ego, and they have to make those, timely. And it was a wonderful presentation. And obviously in the music, in the Broadway or musical theater, we can see a lot of multimedia work, as Julie said. So we are using the technology. We are not going out of the definition of theater, but change is the only constant. We have to go for different changes. Again, after Corona, after this pandemic is over, we will love to go back to the stage. Obviously, we love that. We already told that a lot of time that we love the vibration, we love the positivity, and the vibes comes out from the audience. So we all want to go back to the stage, some as a director, some as an actor, but we can use technology. We can use technology, and we can do both parallelly. That doesn't mean that we have to go out of, and change doesn't mean we are abandoning the old. We love theater, and we will continue to do that. But we can use some creativity. We can use some creativity to form a different kind. And we can think about it. I'm not telling that we have to do it, or we should do it, or we must do it. But we can think about creativity. That's how our brain always think about new things, brainstorming. But I don't want to talk any further, since I don't want to waste time. But Joe, you are the moderator, I know. But you have to give your opinion as well, since you did. This time I'm being the moderator and I'm asking you. You did Abbey Theatre Digital Project Festival, so you should tell your view on this. So please.
Sure. So I've been playing around with multimedia theater for a number of years, and using interactive backgrounds for a production of Star Wars and Shakespeare that I did at the Lincoln Theater a couple of years ago. Actually using some movie, shooting some actual film footage for a production, world premiere production of an adaptation of one of the Oz books. And I've constantly been using video. In fact, I did a hyper staged reading of a play called Ferguson with Robert, where we used a lot of video imagery. In fact, it was actually the final scene of the play. So when this came around, I was very fascinated by what I had heard was going on. And I happen to have some friends that work all across the country in theater. And a couple of people actually said, hey, you should check this out. And so I started off with a virtual musical that featured youth actors. And it was very much like this, except instead of on Zoom, since these kids who have grown up with smartphones and video cameras in their phones, they film themselves. And we set a few parameters, but it was meant to be done in a virtual format. All right. So we're not taking Death of a Salesman and doing it over Zoom. All right. We're not doing anything. We're not trying to shove a square where a circle goes. And that's really what the heart of the virtual theater project is. And I'm also very fortunate that I have my own venue. I'm also very fortunate that the city of Dublin, who I work for, has been very gracious with me and said, yes, up until a couple of weeks ago, look, no more than 10 people in the theater, everybody's social distanced, no singing live. If you can work within those parameters, great. And I've been able to do that. And I also have the technology at my fingertips, so I can still make it very clear that you are in a theater. I'm purposely shooting side angle shots where you can see the side lights and the actor right beside each other. I'm doing swooping shots behind them so you can see that there is a bare audience. All right. So I think it's truly in the eye of the beholder. All right. And you can tell me it's not the same. And I would say you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And the second that I am approved to have 30 people in the theater, I will do that. But I'll also be live streaming those events because there's still going to be another 50 to 100 people that want to go and see that same performance, but they are not able to do so. So do I think this is going away? I don't, but I do think that there's a way to do it to still be socially distant, maintain all of the health guidelines. So people that want to have that shared live experience, they can have it. But for those that physically cannot, we're still going to be providing them a chance to have something that feels live, immediate, and authentic. So that's how I'm choosing to approach it. I am definitely not going to cast aspersions or judgment on people who think and feel otherwise. That is the beauty of art, though. The beauty of art, right? We're supposed to inspire thought and feeling. All right. And so how I'm going to make my art, some people might be vehemently opposed to it. You know what? Made you think, made you feel, did its job. Yes, sir. Dr. Ray.
Sound.
Sorry, Robert, you first go ahead. You first raise your hand.
Well, the moderator makes the choices.
Okay, so
And Joe made the choice.
I'll leave it on the moderator.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead, Dr. Ray. Go ahead, Dr. Ray.
Okay. Yeah. What I wanted to say that, we theater people, we are always positive. Okay, we think positively, right? And I believe that we always learn from our experience, not only present, but also from the past to make our future better. Is this the only pandemic that happened in our life? Maybe we experienced this pandemic, but this pandemic happened every 100 years. And I'm sure our theater ancestors have gone through the same situation. I'll give you, why I'm saying that, I'll give you one example, what Robert told in the beginning, that we lost a lot of things, but we gained a lot of things from this pandemic. Imagine when Shakespeare in earlier 17th century, when plague was there, plague and pandemic. You all remember. He was in quarantine and he wrote King Lear. And in one of his interaction with his daughter, he brought that reference into this play, right? So what Robert said, and I quote that, the people who are playwright, they can utilize this time to bring up some of their thoughts into writing, which could be taken onto the stage when pandemic is over, right? When Robert talked about it, and which I already started, actually one of my thoughts was taken by Joe, and another thought I had already in my mind post-pandemic. Because I told you that what we are doing right now, utilizing technology, but what we are going to do now after pandemic. Because I'm sure is new normal will not be exactly the old normal. It will be really a new normal, okay? So as Joe said, I completely agree with you that maybe we'll be able to utilize this technology to not virtual, but live streaming of the event when we'll be on stage, because we may go into a capacity of 25% capacity of the auditorium. But our audience will still want to enjoy the events. Other thing, if you remember in 1970, Peter Brook said that open space theater, right? And he did it. He did it, if you have seen it, Mahabharata, right? All over the world, he didn't care about what space he gets. Any space he gets, he turned that space into an auditorium. And we have that opportunity. We can go out in the park, right? Do like a fair, theater fair. It will be an open air theater. Audience will sit around without caring, without just looking at their, social distancing problem issue. We can come up with that idea. Open air theater, live streaming with some capacity in the auditorium, bringing theater live, and also utilizing the, and also what I also want to mention that, which again, Robert said, theater community. To me, theater community is not only actor and audience. Think about our crews. Think about our makeup artists. Think about our costume designer. They are also living on this theater. If we cannot go back to the stage, they will not exist. So we have to think about our community as a whole. So we have to do some kind of live performances sooner than later. But we definitely learned, I myself learned a lot through this pandemic, because that gave me opportunity to think. We never had to think about it, right? We had everything available, everything was easy, but now we have challenges. Now we have started thinking that how we can overcome our challenges for the future and make the future better. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cooperman.
No, these are great points, unquestionably. One of the things I was thinking about is that when we use the word technology, I think we just tend to think of our own, our own very limited contemporary idea about technology. So it's something to do with the digital world. But, look, technology, as you can define it, has been throughout the history of theater. So when The Vanishing Point was put in, for example, and that became a way to have sets look like they were actually going into space in a correct manner. But for me, we can do all these things. We can do multimedia. I have no objection to it. But I just worry about that connection, which happens in a space, in a shared space. I worry about that connection. I am not willing to throw out theater the way it's worked for 2,000 years. I am not willing to throw that out. We've got to somehow, we can do all the new technology, we can use all the new technology that we want. And I applaud that. I'm excited by that. What? But we have to somehow get that connection, that community connection. If we can accomplish that through a digital medium, I won't have anything to complain about. But I don't know that, I think we're too soon into it right now, really. So that's what I want to say. But I appreciate all these points because it's making me think too, which is not something I'm used to doing. So thank you.
All right, Farley.
Can I say something to support Dr. Ray's suggestion about using the technology for communicating with others beyond the scope of the theater per se? I work with a actor in Kerala, in Murikulam, which is a small village, and Murikulam shut down. Of course, the state government and the national government shut down the theaters and activities. So this very small company does the oldest theater form in the world. Kudiyattam dates from the 7th century BCE, and it. I worried about how do those people survive under these circumstances, because these are people who have very limited resources. And so I decided to underwrite one of their productions. And so I talked to the head of that organization on Zoom, by the way, and he told me, well, I am happy to work with you, etc. And so I've been regularly videoing him from Kerala and recording his gesture language and facial expressions for the plays that he does, and doing that as a sort of archival record of where his company and he himself is, which I had visioned in '97 when I first came to Stony Brook, from Stony Brook to Georgia. I had envisioned the day when one could connect an artist in Kerala with an artist in London and an artist in Georgia, and they could play this art form, one of them playing musical instruments, the other one acting, and the other one doing another musical instrument. So that has come to pass. That has actually come to pass. But these guys work in this small little village with their cell phone recordings every weekend. They're recording live from that village to the world on YouTube. So it's amazing that actually you have these artists finding a way to reach audiences beyond the small little audiences that are in those villages. And so it's interesting to me that the traditional artists can actually profit by the technology, especially profit by the technology. And they are a company that has done this very effectively, I think. He's also taken Macbeth and done it in this stylized way, in the classical Sanskrit way, and done that performance in Chennai. That's all I had to say about that.
That's great. I think it again, there's I hear what everyone's saying about, yes, we'd love to have this live shared experience. But I also can't help but be just fascinated by all the different ways the technology can allow for our desires to tell stories, is allowing us to do so, and in a lot of ways allowing us to reach a much broader audience. We've got a little bit of time left. I think what I'd like to bring up a point and then see how everyone is what they think and feel about this. We've been talking about like how this affects how we're actually teaching younger artists, that this new generation, especially the generation on the collegiate level that's about to go into this world of the unknown during the pandemic. But what I think is interesting is that I would like to give at least a point about, I work a lot with high school students who are getting ready to graduate and go to undergraduate school. And I also work with undergrads getting ready to go to grad school auditions. And so much of what is being told to these artists when they go to summer intensives or they go to an intensive in the early fall is that they have to know how to prepare their audition packages for the camera. And that so much of the pre-screening audition is that you don't get to go to when I was getting ready to go to college and I was going to auditions, it was all an in-person experience. But now, especially for a top 20, 25 school, you might not even be seen. And you have to really master the art of acting for the camera before you even get a chance to show your proficiency in acting in real space. So I think what I would love to hear about are what your thoughts and feelings are about that. And what do you, when you are looking for a storyteller, let's everybody put their casting hat on, right? What are you looking for? Because we're saying we have concerns about what this pandemic is doing as far as what we're asking people to be as far as their storytelling acumen is concerned. But I don't know, for me, I can tell over camera just as well as I can tell in person whether the person has exactly what I need to tell that part of the story immediately and authentically. So let's break that down. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings about that. Julie, can you start?
That's very interesting. When I'm casting for a role, I'm looking for people that can bring that character to life. And by that, I mean, when they, if they're reading a monologue or if they're reading a opposite of someone else, I need to see if they can, how quickly they can make a character come to life. How quickly can they read something, get a glimpse of this person, and without even really knowing everything about them, just from what they read or how would they immediately present this person to me. I find that because of social media and the Instagram and Twitter, Facebook, all of that, our younger people are more geared to acting in a smaller space, okay? So when they are told that they have to do something in the video, I've seen it go both ways. I've seen young actors be either nervous about it, because they don't feel like they can present themselves the way they want to in this box, or I see other ones that are really excited about, oh, I can do a video. Oh, that's great. Because, they can set it up in their own, place. They feel comfortable. There's any pressure. But for me, that's well and good, for you to send me a video, but I like in person just because I can pick up your energy. Because what you can do by yourself, like sing in your shower and think you're all great and everything, and then come out of the shower and now you're in front of people on the stage and there's 3 or 4 people looking at you, and now I have to sing. Sometimes you can mask that if it's just you in front of a camera, and that's all I have to do is act in front of myself, versus if I know that I'm going to be in front of people. So I think that what will probably happen from that is that they're going to find that they have let in a lot of people that have really great camera presence and being in front of the screen, in front of a camera. But when they actually get on the stage or have to be directed or with other people, because when you have a person in front of you, you can say, okay, now do that again. And you can see if they take directions. If by just asking them to do a little certain thing, you can pick up real quick, from people if they're able to follow directions, hear what you kind of getting it. They don't always get it right away, but you can pick up more from a live casting than you can from. I trust live more than I would trust a video, but I also understand that when you come in, like in the situation that we have now with the pandemic and all of this, that these kind of things are going to have to be done for them to even be considered for the school. So, what choice do they have? That's the way I feel about it. They're kind of like, what choice do I have in this? If the top 25 say I gotta have a video, I gotta have a video, whether I'm comfortable with that or not. So that's the way I feel about it. I feel that it can be an advantage or a disadvantage. It can be an advantage either way to either the actor or the person that's casting, because you really don't know what you're going to get until you actually can get that person in front of you and start giving them directions and seeing how they work that stage.
Frank.
Well, yeah, actually, this question kind of brings full circle to how I originally started talking in the panel. And when I said that there were aspects of what we're doing now that I plan on incorporating into how we teach the acting classes, because you're right. A lot of major graduate programs and theater programs, they want the headshot, they want the resume, and they want the tape. And it's like, that's what they want. And then if those things are good, then you might actually get invited in to actually do the live audition. And as much as our students certainly understand the technology, they don't necessarily they haven't learned how to use it effectively to actually get them jobs. And so what's been, I think, valuable, and for me as well, because I don't teach, or at least I didn't before this, I don't teach my students how to act on camera. That's not what I did. But now I'm learning about that as well, and how I can help them to create the best audition tapes they can, because a lot of people are asking for those now. And along with that, even for actors who are doing stage work, seeing yourself perform can actually really help with self-awareness a lot. I've said to my students, I can tell my students time and time again that there's some unusual thing they're doing with their face, or they're using this gesture too much. And until they actually see themselves do it, then there's that realization of, oh, now I know what you're talking about. So to that extent, I think some of these tools and how I've been using them in the classroom because of the pandemic, I'm going to continue using some of those tools in the classroom once we actually go back into a live classroom as well.
I apologize, Farley.
Oh, okay. Robert, you'll be next, right? Okay, so at Georgia, we have a graduate MFA program in acting. And so I'm not involved with choosing the actors. When I was at Michigan State, I was involved in choosing the actors and went regularly to the URTA auditions that happened on all the East Coast, West Coast, and Chicago. And the process has always been for live presentations to the auditioners, so that the panel of people, get a chance to see everyone. Nowadays, I don't know whether our program at Georgia actually does even accept taped material. They do, in fact, as far as I can tell, go to URTAs, and they do, in fact, interview students both off campus and on URTA visits. And so I suspect that they intend not to take people in unless they've actually seen them in person. I think you're right, that I think that probably the direction that things are going in is over the video and through Zoom. And I suspect we're going to recruit a whole new, maybe 10 actors this spring. And how they're going to do that, I have no idea. But I'm assuming that Zoom is going to play a part in the auditions, but which is different from what they've ever done before.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, I mean, I remember as far back as you know, in the early aughts when I was still singing for my supper and going from regional theater to regional theater as a performer. Yes, I would get the call back from a live audition, but then I would go into the room for the callback, and then all of a sudden there's a camera.
Oh, really?
There's a camera, and then I'm having to modify, already knowing subconsciously, well, I need to modify the audition so it still works in the room. And so, yeah, I mean, it's really amazing. And now it's come to this where it's like actually the video is the driver for these high schoolers that want to be, you know, get to the second ring, right? Level 2. So we have approximately, I believe, 3 minutes left. So
I'll let Robert talk first this time, and then I'll give my 2 cents.
Thank you. I don't know that I have much to say. You know, I have a daughter who had gone through these some of these video auditions, and of course, you know, I absolutely agree with everybody about the changes that it involved. I personally have an issue with both the video, but also the live monologue reading bothers me, because you know, you come in there and you've rehearsed it you know, a zillion times. You say it by rote. I agree with Julie. I absolutely want to see an actor's instincts, and if we can do that through Zoom, great. I want to see what an actor does with the script, sometimes even cold. And I like, Frank, I like that point very much that you made about using video or videography to have an actor see him or herself. We do that actually in my real world job. I'm a trainer, not physical, obviously, if you've ever seen me, but you know, a trainer. And when we train trainers, we put them on camera. And they can see what they, and you know, how they interact and what the things they do and the facial expressions they make. And let's face it, training and teaching and acting are all performance. So they work. So thank you.
I just want to share our experience, although this is nothing new to us, because we started this process almost 10 years ago. Because as you know, Joe knows, and Farley knows, that we work with a lot of directors from India. And a lot of times we cannot bring them here for audition because they come for maybe a month or half a month to rehearse with us. So they have to select their cast to prepare themselves for the character before the director comes in. And at that point of time, as you can imagine, Zoom was not that popular. So we had a Skype platform that time we used to use. And I agree with your point that some people are very conscious about the camera, and they cannot bring their actual acting because they get nervous. So again, based on the direction of the director, I'm talking about one of the Bollywood director we are working with. Farley knows him, Amal Palekar. Right. So he said, you know what, send the headshot first of all the, you know, possible characters. And I want to see that who is the potential person for the particular character. So he kind of decided from the visual appearance and the, you know, headshot that who is fit for this character, who is fit for the other character. And then told them to memorize a paragraph from his or her role and come back, and we brought them together here locally in one room, set up the camera in the other room, and sending them one by one. Nobody is in the room. They will feel that they're by themselves. And they just memorized the lines and they just acted on it. And that was recorded and sent it to our director, and director said yes or no. Unfortunately, most of the times it worked out. But unfortunately, one time it happened that when he came here for actual rehearsal, he found one person is not at all suitable for that particular character. And I had to be the bad guy to make that hard decision to replace him. So that's the challenge I had. But otherwise, I mean, it worked out pretty good for us, actually.
Well, I believe our time has come to an end, and I wanted to say thank you so much to everyone for your time, your talents, your insight. Arijit, I'd like to let you take the mic from here.
First of all, it was a great conversation, by the way. Everybody participated and tell their opinions. In the last one, I didn't get a chance to give my opinion quickly. Personally, I like audience more than camera. But I want to be flexible. If I get a chance, I try to, again, I prefer audience, but I cannot be nervous in front of camera. And I did that. And I like that too, but preference is audience. And again, when storytelling, your second point, Joe, storytelling, I always like to memorize and act so that I can emote properly. When I'm reading and emoting, it is difficult. So first memorizing the dialogue and then emoting, it is better for me. Anyway, 2 points to answer quickly. Again, our tradition in panel discussion in South Asian Theatre Festival, Dipanda knows, Dr. Ray knows, Joe knows, Julie knows, Frank knows. We generally give a flower bouquet. And so Robert and Farley, yours are due when the pandemic is over. We'll try to give you. But again, thank you very much. Thank you very much for being the panelist, giving your valuable times to Spotlight South Asian Theatre Festival 2020 Digital. And this can be the best way to conclude the festival, to have all your presence. And Spotlight is so much honored to have you in these panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Meeting all of you. Hopefully we'll see each other soon again. Be well, be safe.
Yes.
Be safe.
Bye bye.
Take care.
Bye everybody.